cycle. So hi, Kristina. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
We are very lucky today at the Fertility Bandwidth because we've been joined by Kristina Pfennig, and she's a speech pathologist. So I'm being very, very careful in how I speak. But it might sound like speech actually isn't relevant to fertility, but actually it's all to do with the way that the neural pathways work and the inflammation. And that is so relevant to fertility because pretty much most of the work that we're doing with infertility is underpinned by some level of inflammation somewhere along the lines. And so I thought it might be quite interesting today to have a chat with Kristina and just see how we can apply some of this knowledge about nerves and inflammation and the pain that goes with it as well, and how the body's structured and works, so that we can use that then in our holistic approach to benefit us with our fertility issues. Because, I mean, let's face it, there's like 10 to 15% of couples globally who are dealing with some level of fertility problems, whether that be your age, whether it be male infertility, endometriosis. So obviously, that's massively underpinned by inflammation. PCOS, again, massively 5 to 10% of women with PCOS, and they're like huge inflammation there. But lifestyle factors as well, if we're going out, if we're drinking, if we're tired, if we're not feeling our best, obesity, smoking, all of these things can contribute towards inflammation. They also contribute towards infertility. So we can see now the congruence between the two subjects and why it might be quite interesting to just understand a little bit more of the science. So with that, Kristina, shall we dive into some of the science of the neural pathways and inflammation?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. I normally work with people on facial paralysis after a stroke or Bell's palsy. And what causes that, particularly in the case of Bell's palsy, is inflammation of the facial nerve. So the facial nerve that, comes from the brain is inflamed, and it's just like if you have this piece of paper here, it's all nice and smooth, just like your nerve would be. If I crumple it up, it's all crinkled. So it's like you said, we've been out late, we've been out drinking and smoking and carousing around, and we feel crummy. Well, we're never going to get this piece of paper smoothed back out. That facial nerve or our other nerves are not going to be able to be as smooth. They're not going to be able to transmit the message to the muscles. The hormones are not going to be able to get through to the muscles or to wherever they have to go. And that's kind of where the problem is with the inflamed nerves here. So anything you can do to decrease the inflammation, make this paper smooth, decrease the blockage. If you compare it to a roadway where the cars are blocking the road, there's, from a proactive measure, from a proactive standpoint, by not going out and drinking too much, or on the other side, eating healthier, eating anti-inflammatory type foods, such as things with turmeric or ginger or other healthy foods like that. Those nerves can get to the muscles, can get to where they're going, can get the instructions to where they need to be, and they can get the message to it, and then everything works right.
That's so interesting because we talk about roadblocks when I'm speaking to my clients as well. We talk about it in exactly that same way. So the nerves are coming from the head down the spinal column, essentially they're branching off. And if you've got that roadblock there, then the nerves are not going to be able to transmit the message. And that message is actually the hormones. And one of the things that I talk about is hormones are overrated, because you can have your hormones absolutely perfectly, but if they're not getting where they need to go because of these things like inflammation and the neurotransmitters not being able to work effectively, nothing's ever going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is like a really good way to approach this in your scientific experience? What have you found works best, you know, for your patients, but necessarily, you know, like inflammation is inflammation, isn't it? Wherever it occurs, it just happens to be that you're specializing in one area of the body.
Really, if you're in optimal health, if you are well hydrated, hydration, at least in my field, is key. Being dehydrated, because our bodies are 70% water, our blood is 90% water. So we need to stay hydrated and drink lots of water, not alcohol, because that dehydrates you. Caffeine dehydrates you. All that good stuff that's good that we love, it's bad for you. Sorry, but it is. And so stick to water or fruits like watermelon, cantaloupe, things like that are high in liquids. So just optimal.
Because they're flushing away the waste, aren't they, which is created from the inflammation. That's the role of the water. It's flushing through the lymphatic system, it's flushing the waste away. And then because you're putting more water into the blood, which is 90% water, then all the good stuff that's carried in the blood can get where it needs to go to heal and therefore reduce the inflammation. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nicely said.
Thank you. And so outside of diet, what other things do you tend to cover off with your patients?
I also do cover like exercises because we need to strengthen the muscles because they have gotten weak because the nerves are not getting to them. So often, you know, you see this, and I don't know if that would be relevant for your clients. But muscle strength, we do use microcurrents, which are like electrical stimulation sometimes to get the muscles back on track.
Yeah, we have it a slightly different way in the sense it depends what, you know, what is the underlying cause of the fertility issues that we're dealing with. But for instance, say it was endometriosis. I mean, at that point, everything's absolutely tense and cramping, but we can use exercises to relax the muscles because tense muscles aren't necessarily strong, they're just tense. And so once you relax them and you relax the fascia so that everything isn't automatically just stuck in the wrong position and therefore creating more pain and inflammation and nerve problems, then you can start to build everything up. But it's a balancing act. And obviously in fertility, there's any number of causes. But yeah, it does apply. The logic there applies definitely. It's interesting how, I mean, it's one body, isn't it? But it's interesting how it all links together.
It is, you know, and I think so many practitioners don't take a holistic approach and think, you know, your body's connected from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And you have to think about everything because it's all flowing through there and it's all one body and each part does kind of the same thing as all the other parts.
We deal with a lot of patients that have the endo and the lesions, and obviously the lesions are the scar tissue that's inside, and so that can be pulling your body. You might not notice it, but it could. I mean, you know this. It can be pulling your body internally in a different position, and when that happens over a period of time, you'll often find, say, it's in your right hip. You'll often find that your left knee or your ankle later on in life can be bad, or your left shoulder, or your neck. And that, when you explain that to people about how everything's being pulled out, it demonstrates just how interlinked the body is. That's all the tendons, all the tissue, everything is linked together. And then this fascia just sticking all of that together as well. Do you have to deal with fascia with the nerves if it's like if a body's pulled in the wrong position? And then fascia, like the cling film underneath the skin that holds things in place when it doesn't move. Is that a problem for you with Bell's palsy?
Yeah, it can be. Because with that, you have a lot of problems with speech as well as chewing and swallowing, which can get kind of dangerous because the food wants to hang out in this weak cheek over here, and then you have a big ball of stuff and you don't know it's there because you also lose the sensation and the feeling in that side of your face. And So if you go to, lay down or something, you've got this big ball of food that goes whoop to your throat, and you can.
Yeah, that can be, I can see how that can be quite dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And sleeping as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. How about, so we've covered exercises, we've covered food, we've covered water, which is absolutely critical. How about vitamins specifically, or, nutrients generally? So not just the water-based food, but nutrient-based food as well. Is there anything that you necessarily recommend for reducing the inflammation? Obviously, we've got turmeric and ginger.
There's all kinds of different foods listed in the ebook that I have posted on my Instagram page.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm trying to think what they are, but
So people can download that for free if I put the link into the comment.
Yes.
People can download that. So I'll do that. I'll put that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So free bonus because it all applies.
Yeah. And also vitamins and minerals, B12 and anything with that type of minerals and spices and that kind of thing in it, that those are all good.
Yeah, absolutely. So important for reducing the inflammation and then the knock-on effects as well. Is there anything else that you have to add?
I don't think so. Do you have any
No.
other questions? I think we covered it very well. It's very interesting to figure out how what I do fits with what you do. This has really been interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's so interesting because it's one body, like we were saying earlier on. So what we'll do then, just for anyone watching, we'll put this on our Instagrams, both of us. I'll put the link in. Obviously, you're going to have the link anyway. And then if anyone's got any questions, they can just weigh on in, tag us, and we can put them there so that they're for future people as well. When they come along, it becomes a wealth of information for anyone that isn't even following us at the minute to see how certain ways of working can help you without having necessarily to go under the knife. Okay, thank you, Kristina. Don't know where Christy came from.
Everyone calls me Christine, it's fine. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Me too.